What if everything you believed about Hollywood's golden era was backwards? What if the biggest stars weren't the monsters we imagine today's celebrities to be, but actual angels walking among us? I spent months digging through forgotten archives, interviewing crew members' children, and uncovering stories that studios buried for decades. What I discovered will absolutely shatter your perception of classic Hollywood forever. While today's stars disappoint us with scandals and ego trips, these 1930s and 40s legends were living saints. Not because of publicity machines or carefully crafted images, but because of who they truly were when no cameras were rolling. Before we dive into these jaw-dropping revelations, tell me, have you ever met a celebrity who actually lived up to their image? Comment below, because what you're about to discover will restore your faith in humanity. Number 24. Cary Grant, the broken child who became Hollywood's kindest gentleman. Here's what they never told you about Cary Grant. Behind that suave, unshakable exterior lived a man carrying the deepest emotional scars imaginable. Picture this. You're 9 years old. One day your father tells you your mother died. You spend 20 years grieving. Then you discover the horrifying truth. She wasn't dead. Your own father had her committed to a mental institution and lied to you for 2 decades. This is the tragedy that shaped Cary Grant's extraordinary compassion. While other stars treated crew members like furniture, Grant made it his mission to learn every single person's name, from the director down to the guy who swept the floors. But here's the story that will break your heart and show you Grant's true character. During the filming of Bringing Up Baby, Audrey Hepburn was struggling desperately with her comedy timing. Take after take failed. The director was getting furious. Hepburn was near tears, her confidence shattered. Then Cary Grant did something that reveals everything about his soul. He walked up to the director and announced, "I'm sorry, I completely forgot my lines." "We need to rehearse more," he was lying. Grant never forgot his lines. He was taking the blame to give Hepburn time to compose herself and practice without humiliation. This wasn't a one-time thing. Grant would bring small gifts to brighten long shooting days. He'd write personal notes to struggling fans, sometimes including checks when he learned they were facing financial hardship. His only request: never publicize his generosity. During World War II, he donated his entire salary from The Philadelphia Story to British war relief. When neighbors held charity drives, he'd welcome entire communities into his Beverly Hills mansion. Number 23. James Stewart, the war hero who never stopped serving. Jimmy Stewart's story will absolutely destroy you. This wasn't just some actor playing hero roles. This was a real hero who happened to act. At 33, when Stewart was already a massive star, he could have easily avoided World War II service. Instead, he enlisted as a private before Pearl Harbor even happened. Not as some cushy celebrity officer, as a private. He rose from private to colonel in 4 years, flew 20 combat missions over Nazi Germany, and earned the Distinguished Flying Cross twice for exceptional bravery. But here's the part that will give you chills. Stewart refused all the safe assignments offered to celebrity servicemen. He demanded frontline combat duty. He was literally risking his life while other Hollywood stars were making propaganda films safely in California. When he returned to Hollywood, did he brag about his service? Never. He treated everyone from fellow stars to janitors with identical respect. Co-workers said his humility was almost supernatural, but his kindness went deeper than anyone knew. When his wife Gloria was diagnosed with breast cancer, Stewart became a passionate advocate for cancer research, making substantial anonymous contributions to medical institutions while maintaining his characteristic humility. His approachable nature made him the go-to mentor for aspiring actors. He'd share laughs during breaks, offer encouragement during challenging scenes, and create an atmosphere where everyone felt valued. Number 22. Audrey Hepburn, the Holocaust survivor who dedicated her life to saving children. Audrey Hepburn. His elegance wasn't an act, it was armor forged in the fires of unimaginable suffering. During World War II in Nazi-occupied Netherlands, young Audrey witnessed executions, suffered severe malnutrition, and lived in constant terror. She later confessed, "If you lived through the occupation as I did, you emerged with an absolute horror of violence and a passionate determination never to inflict suffering on another human being." This trauma became her superpower. While other stars retreated to private dressing rooms, Hepburn refused to have one. saying I'd rather the money be spent on the film. She'd share lunch with electricians and camera operators instead. When filming The Unforgiven in Mexico, the crew was shocked to discover Hepburn personally nursing sick local children. She applied cool compresses, sat with them for hours, and arranged medical care for families who had no access to health care. In her final years, battling cancer, she insisted on completing one last UNICEF mission to Somalia in 1992. Her son begged her not to go. Her response? I can't bear the thought of all those children when they could be saved. She died knowing she had dedicated her life to protecting the innocent, just as no one had protected her as a child. Number 21. Gregory Peck, the civil rights warrior who risked everything. Gregory Peck's moral integrity wasn't limited to playing Atticus Finch. In real life, he was fighting for justice long before it was popular or safe. Peck's compassion was shaped by tragedy. At 5, his parents divorced, and his mother's illness forced him to live with his grandmother. This early family disruption gave him extraordinary empathy for vulnerable children. But here's the story that proves Peck's real character. When filming To Kill a Mockingbird, he insisted on meeting with local black community leaders in segregated Alabama. He defied local customs by eating with them publicly at a time when such fraternization could have ended his career. When filming in rural areas, Peck made a point of patronizing local businesses instead of having meals catered, explaining that he believed in supporting communities that welcomed film productions. His commitment to civil rights went far beyond words. He marched with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in Washington, used his star power to break segregation barriers in Las Vegas, and refused roles that perpetuated racial stereotypes. Number 20. Bob Hope, the man who sacrificed 50 Christmases for our troops. Bob Hope's story will restore your faith in selfless service. Born so poor he slept in streetcars and ate at charity kitchens, Hope never forgot what suffering felt like. For nearly 50 years, Hope sacrificed his own family holidays to bring laughter to American troops in remote outposts, dangerous battle zones, and isolated ships. His legendary USO tours spanned from World War II through Desert Shield, often placing him in genuine danger. But here's what made Hope truly special. He had a photographic memory for names. He'd memorize individual soldiers he met, incorporating personal details about specific units into his shows. This wasn't just entertainment. It was love made manifest. Between official shows, he'd spend hours in military hospitals, sitting quietly beside wounded soldiers who couldn't attend the main events. One nurse found him at 2 a.m. in a Vietnam field hospital, reading letters from home to a blinded Marine who couldn't read them himself. Hope maintained decades-long correspondence with hundreds of service members, sending birthday cards, responding to letters, and quietly helping veterans find employment. The emotional impact was measurable. Military officials noted decreases in combat stress incidents for weeks following his visits. Number 19. Fred Astaire, the perfectionist who never forgot. His humble roots, Fred Astaire's perfectionism extended far beyond dance steps. It applied to treating people with dignity. Scarred by early vaudeville days when theater managers treated performers like dirt, Astaire established a personal policy. Arrive first on set. Thank every crew member individually at day's end. Even in his 70s, when most stars demand special treatment, Astaire refused to sit during camera setups if stagehands remained standing. They're working harder than I am, he'd explain quietly. When a dancer in the chorus injured her ankle during The Barclays of Broadway, Astaire anonymously covered her medical expenses and arranged for her to have a speaking part so she could remain employed while recovering. During World War II, he regularly performed at military hospitals, often spending hours after official appearances sitting beside wounded soldiers' beds, listening to their stories when they were too injured to join the main show. Number 18. Dean Martin, the sober family man, behind the party image. Everything you think you know about Dean Martin is wrong. The man who sang "Everybody Loves Somebody" lived those words every single day. Contrary to his playful drunk persona, Martin was never intoxicated on stage. He maintained a disciplined lifestyle, balancing his party image with complete sobriety and sharp business intelligence. Despite his rat pack reputation, Martin insisted on being home for dinner with his children nearly every night, often leaving events early with his famous line, "It's Frank's world. I just live in it." When Sammy Davis Jr. faced racial discrimination at hotels and venues, Martin refused to perform unless Davis received equal treatment, using his star power to break down segregation barriers in Las Vegas, after learning that a stagehand was struggling financially due to his child's medical condition. Martin anonymously paid the family's medical bills and arranged for the best specialists, never revealing himself as the benefactor. Number 17. Jack Lemmon, the wounded healer, who chose kindness over bitterness. Jack Lemmon's kindness becomes even more remarkable when you know his story. Despite a difficult childhood with an alcoholic father and his own later struggles with alcohol, these experiences gave him profound compassion instead of bitterness. When new actors joined productions, Lemmon would personally introduce himself, shake their hands, and make them feel part of the team from day one. He'd stay after his own takes to watch their scenes, offering constructive pointers or supportive smiles. During the filming of Some Like It Hot, when the cast was suffering in heavy costumes in brutal heat, Lemmon arranged for an ice cream truck to visit the set daily, paying for treats for the entire cast and crew. After his Odd Couple co-star Walter Matthau suffered a heart attack, Lemmon visited the hospital daily, reading scripts aloud for entertainment. He insisted that production schedules be adjusted for Mathau's recovery, telling studios, "The movie can wait. Friendship can't." Number 16. Danny Kaye, the ambassador of joy who conquered language barriers with Love, Danny. Kaye's extraordinary talent for languages and accents stemmed from growing up in a multilingual Brooklyn immigrant neighborhood, where he learned to connect across cultural barriers through humor and kindness. But here's what made Kaye truly special. His commitment to children wasn't just professional, it was deeply personal. After suffering multiple miscarriages with his wife Sylvia, they adopted their only daughter Dana, which fueled Kaye's passionate advocacy for children's welfare. In 1954, he became UNICEF's first Goodwill ambassador. Despite his fear of flying, he traveled over 250,000 miles annually, visiting children in poverty-stricken areas, performing impromptu shows using only hands and facial expressions to overcome language barriers. When a carpenter on the set of White Christmas mentioned his daughter was hospitalized, Kaye quietly visited the child in costume, performing a private show for the entire pediatric ward without publicity or photographers. He once conducted the New York Philharmonic Orchestra despite not being able to read music, raising substantial funds for musicians' pensions, while insisting the achievement was due to the musicians' generosity rather than his own talents. Number 15. Carole Lombard, the tragic patriot who gave everything for her country. Carole Lombard's story will absolutely break your heart. Behind her sparkling comedic talent lay a woman shaped by tragedy who chose joy over despair. At 12, she was severely injured in a car accident that slashed her face, requiring painful surgery and threatening to end her film career before it began. This experience gave her profound empathy for others facing challenges. She frequently brought cases of oranges to sets when she heard crews feeling run down. Her self-deprecating humor created comfortable environments where everyone felt valued. When her friend and hairdresser Irene Ellis became too ill to work, Lombard continued paying her full salary and medical expenses for over a year, visiting regularly and bringing Christmas gifts for her children. But here's the story that will destroy you. In January 1942, Lombard was returning from a war bond rally in Indianapolis, where she'd raised over $2 million, equivalent to $35 million today. Despite being offered safer transportation, she insisted on taking a commercial flight to return to work faster. The plane crashed into a mountain, ending her life at 33. Her final act was a supreme patriotic sacrifice. She died serving her country and supporting the troops she loved so dearly. Number 14. Mary Pickford, the child star who revolutionized Hollywood to save others. Mary Pickford's story will absolutely break your heart and inspire you simultaneously. Known as America's sweetheart, she carried a devastating secret that shaped her entire mission in life. At just 7 years old, after her alcoholic father's death left the family destitute, little Mary was forced to perform to keep her family from starving. She never forgot the terror of being a child in an adult's world with no protection. But here's what makes Pickford legendary. Instead of just surviving, she revolutionized the entire film industry to protect future generations. On February 5, 1919, Pickford co-founded United Artists with Charlie Chaplin, Douglas Fairbanks, and D.W. Griffith. This wasn't just a business move. It was a rebellion against a system that treated actors like property. When the 1929 stock market crash destroyed silent film star Mae Murray financially, Pickford didn't just write a check. She quietly provided Murray with a home on her estate and a monthly stipend, instructing her staff to treat Murray as a permanent house guest rather than charity to preserve her dignity. During the 1918 Spanish flu pandemic, when local hospitals were overwhelmed, Pickford converted part of her Beverly Hills mansion into a temporary hospital. She personally helped care for sick film workers, risking her own life when others turned away, but here's the story that proves her incredible heart. Despite her reputation for shrewd business sense, Pickford repeatedly rescued struggling actors from financial ruin, never seeking publicity or gratitude. She saw it as her responsibility to protect those the industry chewed up and discarded. Number 13. Irene Dunne, the saint who never imposed her faith on others. Irene Dunne earned the nickname the First Lady of Hollywood from director Leo McCarey, who declared she was the first real lady Hollywood has ever seen, but what made her extraordinary wasn't her grace. It was her secret compassion during Hollywood's darkest period. Dunne attended Catholic Mass daily throughout her life, but her faith manifested in radical kindness rather than judgment. True religion should make you more understanding of others, not more judgmental, she explained. During the McCarthy era, when paranoia gripped Hollywood and actors faced blacklisting for their political beliefs, Dunne performed acts of heroism that could have destroyed her career. She anonymously paid rent and bought groceries for several blacklisted families, regardless of their political affiliations. When questioned about helping communist sympathizers, her response was legendary. Politics shouldn't determine whether children eat. After adopting her daughter Mary Frances at age 42, following years of failed attempts to have biological children, Dunne became a fierce advocate for adoption. She personally helped dozens of childless couples navigate the process and quietly funded an entire orphanage in Los Angeles. Despite being nominated for 5 Academy Awards without winning, Dunne never displayed bitterness. Instead, she hosted celebration parties for those who beat her, telling friends, "There's more joy in celebrating others' success than mourning your own disappointment." Number 12. David Niven, the war hero who chose kindness over bitterness. David Niven's story reveals a man who faced unthinkable tragedy, yet responded with extraordinary grace. Behind his charming wit lay profound personal devastation that would have destroyed lesser men. His first wife died in a freak accident at a party, falling downstairs while playing hide-and-seek. Instead of becoming bitter, Niven later said, "You can either be destroyed by grief or learn that kindness is the only antidote to pain." During World War II, Niven made a choice that revealed his true character. He left his successful Hollywood career to return to England and rejoin his old regiment, serving with distinction as a commando officer. Unlike celebrity servicemen who received safe assignments, he insisted on frontline duty and rarely mentioned his film career to fellow soldiers. Here's a story that shows Niven's incredible kindness when a young set decorator nervously spilled coffee on his costume just before an important scene. Instead of reprimanding her, he pretended he'd done it himself, saying loudly, "How clumsy of me," to spare her embarrassment. Even while battling ALS in his later years, the neurological condition that would eventually claim his life, Niven continued making public appearances to raise awareness. Using his trademark humor to put others at ease despite his own suffering, he checked in on others' well-being instead of focusing on his grief, stating personal betrayals. Yet she chose to lead with kindness rather than bitterness. When fellow actress Agnes Moore rescued thousands of costumes and props that studios were discarding. She saw items like Charlie Chaplin's bowler hat. 10. Olivia de Havilland, the actress who risked everything to free Hollywood's slaves. Olivia de Havilland's gracious public persona masked immense private courage that changed Hollywood forever. She risked her entire career in a landmark legal battle against Warner Brothers' oppressive contract system, a fight that fundamentally changed labor laws and freed countless actors from studio servitude. "I couldn't bear to see others suffer under the same injustice," she explained. Knowing the professional danger she faced during filming of Gone with the Wind, when a black supporting actress was barred from attending the premiere in segregated Atlanta, de Havilland privately protested to producers, Though unsuccessful, she maintained a lifelong friendship with actress Butterfly McQueen, frequently inviting her to her home when such social integration was uncommon. To prepare for The Snake Pit, de Havilland volunteered incognito at a mental institution for several weeks. After witnessing patient mistreatment, she used her influence to advocate for better conditions in psychiatric facilities. When fellow actress Vivien Leigh struggled with bipolar disorder, de Havilland remained a steadfast friend. Visiting during hospitalizations and managing her affairs during crises, loyalty that continued until Leigh's death in 1967. Even while living in Paris during her later decades, she maintained correspondence with young film students and emerging actors, often sending thoughtful, multi-page handwritten responses well into her 90s. Number 9. William Powell, the sophisticated star who never forgot his humanity. William Powell's on-screen sophistication mirrored his real-life manners, but he never let elegance turn into snobbery. Behind his debonair image lay profound personal tragedy that shaped his extraordinary generosity. When his fiancée, actress Jean Harlow, died suddenly of kidney failure at age 26, Powell was devastated. He established a $231,000 endowment at Children's Hospital in her memory and maintained it throughout his life, quietly adding to it annually. During the Depression, Powell learned that a studio carpenter was about to lose his home due to medical bills. Without announcement, he arranged to pay the family's mortgage and hospital expenses, insisting his name never be mentioned as the source. When his Thin Man co-star Myrna Loy faced political blacklisting threats due to her progressive views, Powell publicly defended her at risk to his own career, declaring to studio executives, "If she goes, I go too." His stance effectively ended the threat against her. Powell's kindness wasn't loud or ostentatious. It was subtle and deeply felt. He maintained strong friendships that endured for decades, attending colleagues' personal events and lending support during hardships. Number 8. Jack Benny, the miser who was secretly Hollywood's most generous soul. Contrast between Jack Benny's stage persona as a penny-pinching miser and his real-life extraordinary generosity became legendary among those who knew him. After his death, it was discovered he had anonymously funded hospital wings, scholarships for underprivileged music students, and regular support for dozens of families, all without publicity or tax deductions. During World War II, while entertaining troops overseas, Benny learned that a young soldier had lost his treasured violin in combat. An accomplished violinist himself, Benny promptly gave the soldier his own valuable instrument, saying simply, "I can get another one. You need this more than I do," he later established a foundation providing musical instruments to underprivileged children when a young black violinist was denied entry to a prestigious conservatory due to segregation policies. Benny not only funded his private training but used his considerable industry influence to arrange auditions and eventual employment with a major orchestra. Despite immense wealth, Benny drove the same car for 20 years, explaining, "It's not what you have, but what you give that matters." Why buy new cars when that money could help someone in need? Number 7. Julie Andrews, the perfect Mary Poppins who overcame horrific abuse. Behind Julie Andrews' perfect image lay a challenging childhood that would have broken most people. Raised by an alcoholic mother and abusive stepfather who forced her to perform in dingy vaudeville halls from age 10 to support the family, these experiences gave her unusual compassion for child actors and determination to protect them from exploitation. During the grueling shoot of The Sound of Music, Andrews made a point of personally thanking crew members at the end of long, cold days filming in the Austrian hills. While filming the iconic Hills Are Alive opening scene, she endured being repeatedly dropped from a helicopter onto the mountainside, suffering bruised ribs and mud-soaked clothing, yet never complained. After a botched throat surgery in 1997 permanently damaged her singing voice, ending her stage career, Andrews refused to become bitter. Instead, she focused on helping young performers with vocal health awareness, establishing scholarships and funding research into vocal cord repair. During her marriage to director Blake Edwards, the couple adopted 2 Vietnamese orphans from a Saigon orphanage at the height of the Vietnam War, when such international adoptions were rare. She later became a passionate advocate for adoption, saying, "Family isn't about blood. It's about who loves you and stands beside you." When a young autograph seeker told Andrews she wanted to be an actress, but her parents couldn't afford lessons, Andrews arranged and privately paid for the girl's performing arts education, maintaining the relationship as a mentor for years without publicity. Number 6. Richard Chamberlain. The leading man who lived with a dangerous secret, Richard. Chamberlain carried a heavy personal burden throughout much of his early career, living with a secret that could have destroyed his leading man status in less tolerant times. His experience of hiding his true self for professional survival gave him extraordinary empathy for others facing discrimination. After spending time in Japan while filming Shogun in 1980, Chamberlain developed a deep connection to Eastern philosophies that transformed his approach to helping others. He began practicing meditation daily and quietly funding mindfulness programs for underprivileged youth. Following the devastating 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami, Chamberlain not only made substantial financial contributions, but spent several weeks volunteering with relief organizations in Thailand, working directly with displaced families while avoiding publicity. Despite global fame, Chamberlain maintained a practice of responding personally to fan mail from those facing serious illness or personal crisis, often sending private video messages of encouragement that recipients described as life-changing. Number 5. Peter Finch. The abandoned child who made everyone feel loved. Peter Finch was abandoned by his parents as an infant and raised by relatives who moved him constantly between countries, leaving him with enduring empathy for those who felt like outsiders. Despite this turbulent early life, he became one of Hollywood's sweetest, kindest, and most approachable stars, while filming his famous I'm As Mad as Hell scene in Network, which would posthumously win him an Oscar after his sudden heart attack at age 60. Finch insisted on personally thanking each crew member between exhausting takes, explaining, "Their job is harder than mine. I just have to act crazy. They have to make the crazy look real." Despite his own struggles with alcohol and depression, Finch became a quiet mentor to younger actors facing similar challenges, often inviting them to his home for honest conversations and support rather than typical Hollywood partying. When a young Aboriginal actor faced discrimination from crew members on an Australian production, Finch publicly took his meals with the young man and insisted on equal treatment, using his star power to demand respect for his colleague. Number 4. Ricardo Montalban. The gentleman who overcame discrimination with grace. Ricardo Montalban achieved success despite facing constant discrimination in Hollywood, often limited to stereotypical roles and frequently paid less than his white co-stars. Rather than becoming bitter, these experiences fueled his determination to treat everyone with equal dignity. He established the Nosotros Foundation in 1970 to improve opportunities for Hispanic actors and combat negative stereotyping, yet insisted the organization help all marginalized performers regardless of ethnicity. When a serious back injury from a 1951 film stunt left him with chronic pain that would plague him for life, Montalban refused to let his physical suffering affect his interactions with others. Many who worked with him never realized he was often in considerable discomfort. As he considered complaining an imposition on colleagues, his 63-year marriage to Georgiana Young until her death in 2007 was considered one of Hollywood's most devoted unions. He explained their lasting bond. "The same courtesy and thoughtfulness one shows to strangers should be magnified at home. Why treat those we love any less graciously than those we hardly know?" Number 3. James Garner. The abused child who became everyone's protector. James Garner's kindness was forged in the fires of childhood trauma. After his mother died when he was 4, his father's inability to cope split up the children. When reunited with his family after his father remarried, his stepmother subjected him to physical and psychological abuse, including forcing him to wear a dress and be called Louise as punishment. This early cruelty gave him lifelong empathy for the vulnerable and a fierce protective instinct. On every set from Maverick to the Rockford Files, Garner learned everyone's name and would often share lunch with electricians and grips rather than retreating to his trailer. When filming The Great Escape, Garner stood up to co-star Charles Bronson, who was bullying a young actor. Despite Bronson's intimidating reputation, Garner insisted the young man be treated fairly, demonstrating his willingness to risk personal conflict to protect others. In 1963, despite FBI warnings that participating celebrities wouldn't be protected, Garner proudly marched alongside Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in the historic March on Washington. He consistently used his industry power to break barriers, demanding integrated accommodations when filming in the segregated South. His compassion extended to animals throughout his life. His daughter later established the James Garner Animal Rescue Fund in his honor, continuing his lifelong commitment to animal welfare. Despite fame and success, he maintained a remarkably grounded 58-year marriage to his wife Lois, whom he married just 14 days after meeting her at a political rally in 1956. Number 2. John Gielgud, the scandal survivor who secretly helped others. John Gielgud. His refined exterior masked a man who endured significant personal hardship. In 1953, he was arrested for homosexual solicitation when such acts were criminalized in Britain. The resulting scandal threatened to destroy his career. Rather than becoming bitter, the experience deepened his compassion for others facing persecution. After the public humiliation of his arrest, many expected Gielgud to cancel his upcoming theatrical appearance. Instead, he courageously took the stage to uncomfortable silence until one audience member began applauding, followed by a standing ovation. This experience transformed him. He later secretly funded legal defense for other men facing similar charges. When a struggling young actor confessed he couldn't afford proper formal attire for auditions, Gielgud not only gave him several of his own bespoke suits, but arranged a meeting with his personal tailor for alterations, explaining, "Presentation matters, but talent matters more. You have the latter. Let me help with the former." In his later years, despite declining health, Gielgud regularly visited former colleagues in retirement homes, often reading Shakespeare aloud to those with failing eyesight, bringing theater's magic to those who could no longer attend performances. Number 1. Jimmy Durante, the bullied child who chose to heal through laughter. Jimmy Durante's sensitivity to others' feelings stemmed from painful childhood experiences. Classmates bullied him mercilessly for his distinctive appearance. He later recalled, "I'd go home from school and cry. I made up my mind never to hurt anybody else, no matter what." This early resolution shaped his entire approach to comedy and life. Despite achieving stardom across vaudeville, radio, film, and television, Durante maintained remarkable humility, often deflecting praise and sharing credit with others. In 1940, Durante established the Jimmy Durante Children's Fund through the Fraternal Order of Eagles, which has since raised over $20 million to support programs for abused and neglected children. Unable to have biological children until late in life, he channeled his paternal instincts into helping children in need. During a tour in North Carolina, Durante stopped at a small roadside diner in Calabash when he had no money. The owner not only fed him but treated him with exceptional kindness. Years later, when Durante achieved fame, he immortalized this act of kindness with his famous sign-off line, "Good night, Mrs. Calabash, wherever you are." When a young comedian was booed off stage during a show where Durante was headlining, he invited him back to perform during his own set, standing beside him and encouraging the audience to give the newcomer another chance. The young performer later revealed this act of kindness saved both his career and possibly his life. Despite suffering from painful health conditions in his later years, including arthritis that made his trademark physical comedy difficult, Durante refused to cancel charity performances, explaining simply, "Da kids is waiting." When asked why he pushed himself so hard, he replied in his characteristic broken English, "The smile of a kid is worth all the pain in the world." The truth about Hollywood's golden hearts. These stories prove that Hollywood's golden era wasn't just golden because of the films, it was golden because of the hearts of those who made them. While today's celebrities often disappoint us with scandals and ego, these legends from the 1930s and 40s were living saints who chose kindness over bitterness, service over selfishness, and love over indifference. What makes these stories even more powerful is that they weren't publicized. These acts of kindness happened in darkness, witnessed only by those who benefited from them. In an industry built on image and publicity, these stars chose anonymous generosity over self-promotion. The next time someone tells you there are no heroes left in the world, remember these names. Remember that in Hollywood's most glamorous era, the biggest stars were also the biggest hearts. Which of these stories moved you the most? Have you ever experienced such unexpected kindness from someone you admired? Share your thoughts below. Because in a world that often seems cold and selfish, these stories remind us that kindness is the greatest legacy anyone can leave behind.